What's this? The first season of Frieren lost its top spot to season 2. Is this real or is this a meme? Okay, give me just a second to fact check this just to see if this is legitimate or not. Because nowadays you can't trust everything you always see. It's real. Oh my god. Like, the fact that Fullmetal Alchemist isn't even top 3 anymore, when did this happen? When did Chainsaw Man surpass Fullmetal Alchemist? I knew that Frieren has been sitting here for years now since it came out in 2024, but to think that it has now not just been surpassed, like Fullmetal hasn't just been surpassed once, twice, but 3 times? There's never been a bigger indication on the changing of times and era than this right here. I'll elaborate on that in a second. But I find it incredibly ironic that Frieren is now in the top spot on my anime list, and Season 2 was able to beat Season 1. Personally, I don't think Season 2 should be rated this high yet, because obviously it's just one episode, which gives into the whole faulty system of my anime list that's been talked about a lot, so I'm not going to get into that. But I do think that it really indicates how many people really love Frieren, and I think that anyone that is probably voting and giving ratings to Frieren are probably the mega fans, people that have watched Season 1 that are going into Season 2, so that's why the rating would probably be this high, because anyone that loves Frieren are going to rate Frieren Season 2 high, because that's going to be a continuation of it, which I do think that in general my anime list shouldn't really separate seasons like this. I think that it does a lot of disservice to the rankings and stuff, because like, look, Gintama has multiple here. And I'm not putting Gintama down. I love Gintama a lot. But it has, like, multiple. 4 entries just right here alone in the top 15. It shouldn't be like that. I'm going to be honest. And I think that, in general, Frieren doing this is also showcasing another big, like, error with the formatting of this rating system that my anime list has had for a very long time. But I don't want to get on a tangent with that. I want to talk about something that is very interesting about this information that came out that I just found out about. I find it fascinating that Frieren is rated this high for an episode that more or less would be considered filler by a big portion of the anime community, and JJK, that had one of its best episodes ever, best animated and directed episodes, was rated 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. Now, for those that don't watch JJK, let me give you a brief little synopsis here. Like, no spoilers, don't worry. But, basically, the episode of JJK had no action. There was zero action, and Shonen Tards are really not beating the allegations. They're not beating the allegations of if there is no action, they don't like it. And that's exactly the case here. You know, this entire situation with how JJK was rated like this, the episode that came out a few days ago, reminds me of the Soul Leveling episode. If you remember, there was an episode of Soul Leveling that came out like a year ago, and had Jinwoo have an emotional moment about his mother. And I want to be honest with you, one of the best episodes, actually. It actually had character development and character building and characterization for Jinwoo, and the voice acting was incredible. I know that Soul Leveling is technically junk food for anime. I'm not trying to gas it up and say it's the best thing of all time, but there is moments that are pretty awesome, and that was a great moment for just getting into the character's shoes. But that episode was rated horribly. People did not like that episode because Jinwoo tried to be a human. He acted human. He broke his facade, his aura and hype moments, and decided to be an actual human being. And people were furious that there was an episode showcasing that he wasn't a perfect person. And when I look at this situation, this is once again building the allegations that shonen fans will never beat the allegations that they only care about action and anything else is not relevant. Everything is considered filler if it's not action. It's honestly hilarious to me. Now, at the end of the day, a 7.7 out of 10 isn't necessarily a bad rating. It is a good rating. But the problem here is that it's rated this low not because it was a poorly directed episode, but because it was an exposition and dialogue episode instead of an episode about action. And it's just like, dude, Shonen fans, man. I love myself a good shonen, don't get me wrong. I love some good action, but dude, this is embarrassing. This is really, really embarrassing. But let's get back into the Frieren for a second. So Frieren is now in the top 3 twice. I think that this really indicates just such a big difference in time period we're currently in, which makes a lot of sense why Fullmetal Alchemist is lowering down in the rankings. And I guess let's segue into that. So I know I talk about a lot of anime tourists and stuff like that, of how they are, invading the community, trying to change the culture, censor things. I've talked about this a lot. A lot of different videos kind of dedicated to this subject. But there is a lot of people that do get into anime, even in the last 5 years, thanks to COVID, that aren't trying to change the anime community. They are trying to integrate. They are trying to dive into the culture itself and just really enjoy what makes anime, and manga. There's a lot of good actors alongside of the bad actors, and I feel like, when you think about the newcomers into anime that really want to dive into it, obviously, they're probably going to get into anime through the newer shows, either through Chainsaw Man, Frieren, JJK, Demon Slayer. You get the point. We all started somewhere. Just as how many of us that probably grew up with anime a long time ago, decades ago, you might have started with either a Gundam series, you might have started with Dragon Ball, or Yu Yu Hakusho, or Sailor Moon, you might have started with Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, you get the point. There is always an origin point where people start, and then they dig in and dive into different avenues of anime and manga. And obviously, if someone encounters such a gorgeous anime like Frieren, they're going to instantly declare it a masterpiece. And even as someone that's watched thousands of anime, I declare Frieren a masterpiece. It is a very unique anime. And I know people get upset with me wanting to glaze it, but it is the truth. If you've watched it, you know why. You know why it's good. But the point here is that Frieren being this rated highly is because everybody that's now getting into anime and the new surgence of popularity, they're obviously going to rate Frieren highly, and Fullmetal is going to lose to this because not a lot of people are watching Fullmetal Alchemist anymore. And it's a no-brainer, because it's like, if you're getting into stuff, you're going to watch the new stuff from the 2020s. You're not going to watch something from 2009 and 2010. And I know this is going to upset a lot of anime fans, going to get a lot of people furious, but it's the truth. Not a lot of people, at least when they're getting into stuff, are going to go back and start with very old shows from the 2000s or 1990s, 80s, 70s, whatever. They're not going to start with stuff like that. They're going to start with stuff in the late 2010s and the 2020s. And this right here is basically an indication of that. As more and more people come into the anime community and new anime comes out, it was only a matter of time until Fullmetal would lower in rankings. The fact that it has stood strong this long for over 15 years, I do think speaks volumes to its weight and how famous it is as a story. And it's even crazier to me that despite like big series that have come out over the years in the last decade and a half, like for instance Attack on Titan, Fullmetal was still able to remain in this top spot for such a long time. The impact doesn't go unsaid. And I think that it's sad to see series slowly go down, but that's just what happens. You have these old shows that people will not watch or ever even know about because they're not even talked about or discussed anymore, and people might be completely unaware of the show's even existence. There's probably a lot of people, I'm not even joking, that don't even know what Gintama is. They don't even know about the existence of Fullmetal Alchemist. There's probably a lot of people that have no idea what the hell, Ginga is. Like, they have no idea what the hell this type of series is. Nobody probably even remembers the iconic nature of Fruits Basket or even Code Geass to a degree. There's a lot of things here that people have probably forgotten about or will never even know exists, which is kind of crazy. It's interesting how it works out like that. But back into the main point. Frieren managed to beat itself, and I think that if there was any series that beat Frieren, it would be itself, unless something else comes out that blows all our mind. But man, Fullmetal, no longer the reigning champion, not even top 3. And this isn't like a recent thing with Chainsaw Man, because this movie's been out for a few months now. So the fact that it is this highly rated above Fullmetal means that, yeah, Fullmetal fans have lost. That's basically the main point of it. But I will leave it at that. Just wanted to briefly talk about this. I thought it was very interesting. May you all be safe and stay healthy. Chibi out.